Hello and welcome to this special podcast. Today we have with us Mr. Parag Lokhande. He is working with ICICI Lombard. Hi sir, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, sir. So my first question for you would be, we are now moving past the initial hype phase of large language models or LLMs, if we cut it short. So what is the biggest shift that you have seen in how the industry is viewing LLMs compared to 1 year ago?
Well, we are in an age where LLM is doing a lot of things, right? Every day we hear about some of the new things. We have heard about what Anthropic recently came with my thoughts of what it can do, and we every day hear about what OpenAI can do. I think the biggest shift that I see is the business confidence has increased significantly. Gone are the days where data science was seen as somebody who's working in a corner office doing some mumbo jumbo and bringing it. What it has also done it has democratized the whole process. Today, a business can see what is a value that data science, or specifically if I talk about the LLM models, are bringing in with respect to the knowledge, with respect to various kind of use cases, whether it's related to customer facing, whether it's related to internal employees. So I think that's one of the significant delta that we see. Gone are the days when the data science folks had to go and sell the concept to the business. Now business understands the need, they're experimenting, they're playing around with it, and they see a value coming out of these models.
So since you talked about value, now enterprises are moving from proof of concept to proof of value. So what is the hardest part of extracting a tangible ROI from an LLM implementation for you?
Well, I think this is a very good question, because finally anything that we do, it has to have a strong business impact. Now we have gone into a world of where people were experimenting with LLM to the other extreme. You would have recently heard about token maximization. Uber has already completely blown away their budget which they were using as part of the LLM. We have recently heard Microsoft is pulling back, so and all those other things. So I think from a business perspective, what is the impact that we are creating, for which one has to understand that if we are using an LLM or if you are using any technique, what is the impact that it is going to create, whether also the business process has to be aligned to it. Gone are the days where you are just automating it, putting additional LLM as part of the process. You have to look at the business process end to end and also see what is the value that this implementation can bring, and I'm sure then the value will automatically follow.
Definitely. Now, when moving from standalone LLMs to automated, say agentic AI, what is the biggest hidden infrastructure cost that actually catches the company off guard?
Well, I think what the company has to think through is, first, definitely there is a technology cost. Also, what would be the important cost is the cost of the whole operations that is changing, because typically if I talk about India, we have humans who have been doing it, and when we are talking about agentic AI, we are talking about replacing humans over there. So we have to think also what can go wrong, right? Because unfortunately, a lot of times people do not think of what are the guardrails that one has to play, because we are talking about the customer's data, we are talking about a lot of sensitive data that is there. We are also talking about the whole business processes. So recently you would have read that Ford fired all the engineers, and then they had to recall them back. So how do you make a robust process, and how do you put human guardrails which will ensure that you are creating a sustainable process rather than just doing an ad hoc experiment around it?
We spoke about the return on investment. So as companies are now focusing on that, what kind of use cases are hitting the garbage bin, and which ones are actually getting funded?
Well, again, a very excellent question, right? Because see, when currently we are in an area of hype, right, where everybody thinks that LLM will solve every problem. We are, people are talking about AGI and a lot of stuff that can be done. So if you again look at from what are the projects which are creating a value and what are the ones which where people are just creating an MVP or just experimenting and it's not going in. See, finally again the basic principle remains what has been in age-old principles. If we are putting something, what is the value that we are deriving, what is the change that we are trying to bring in life of a customer, in life of a stakeholder, in life of an employee by putting that. Am I making the life of the customer easier or am I complicating it? Is by putting a particular technology in place, will we eliminate the areas which are causing pain to the customer, or are we enhancing it? So that's something which is important, because again lot of LLMs are finally black box, right? Today if you use the next LLM vis-a-vis Y, your output might differ. How do you put those guardrails? How do you ensure that you get consistent output? How do you see that whatever you're doing finally delivers a value for your stakeholders? So I think once if those basic principles are kept in mind, then automatically you will derive value. Else again it's you're putting a cost, or it's a wastage of time and effort for the organization.
Now coming to the implementation and the adoption of LLMs, a lot of enterprises usually struggle in adopting it. So how do you design these systems so that the businesses and the users are actually trusting them and using them daily in their process?
Well, finally, again, as I said, you have to start with keeping an end goal, which is what is the value that you're deriving, and who is bringing that value, and how do you take the whole stakeholders into confidence. Just to give you a very simple example, you're doing something for sales, and if the sales team is not involved, if the process is as it is, or just automating it, then it creates more challenges for the whole team at large, right? So how do you build the whole process? How do you envisage the whole process? How do you take stakeholders on board? And also, how do you do small proof of concepts to show them what exactly is the change that is there? Also important is the change management, because finally we are dealing with humans. We are, whether it's our customers, whether it's our stakeholders, whether it's our partners, how do you bring them on board? How are they also aligned, so that everybody is working full-fledgedly towards making it a success. I think once these basic tenets are done, then automatically you will get a better results.
Well, given your focus on working with emerging ecosystems, are startups moving faster on LLM monetization than large enterprises and large enterprise players as well?
Well, I would say right now it's a very interesting space, right? See, startups definitely are bringing a lot of value. They are trying to solve a lot of problems which probably enterprises are not looking at it. They are obviously much more agile, much more nimble. They are able to create those kind of proof of concepts. So definitely, they are able to work on a niche segments and create that kind of value for the organizations. However, at the same time, a lot of organizations are also trying to see how do they create a bigger impact by incorporating and working with startups. So I think, the way I see it is going forward, both of them have to converge together. Both of them have to work together, of which startups will have their own strength, and the large organizations understand their business much better. They have a big customer base, because finally you will be able to create an impact when you are able to cater to a bigger population. So I think both of them will converge and work together towards creating a value.
My last question, sir, for you. In an agentic operating model where software acts on the data insights instantly, how do you measure the financial risk of an AI mistake against the ROI that it is generating?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question, and I think it is evolving every day, right? So a lot of organizations are figuring out that some AI code was written, and then they are trying to make out, how do you solve for the bugs? What are the various kind of things that you do? So I think what becomes important in this is again, going back to basics, what exactly are you trying to achieve? What are the inherent risks that are there? So, for example, if you are doing any kind of project for the customer, do you have human in the loop? If you are looking for automating certain things, or if you are trying to personalize certain things, you have to think through what possibly can go wrong. List those risks that are there, try and see how do you mitigate those. Do experiments, keep your monitoring in place. You create those framework which will be an early alert signals for them, and based on that you take your calls and see how you can derive value out of it. Because I think we are in a world which is moving very fast. If you look at, I think OpenAI was launched in 2021, and in 2026 the likes of OpenAI and Anthropic have a market value which is equivalent to the total market cap of IT industry in India. So I think we are evolving at a very fast pace, and at this juncture I think people like me are trying to, that's where we get sleepless nights, because how do you engage and how do you identify those risks. So I think it's a ever evolving process, and hopefully if we get our basic rights, we'll be able to achieve it.
Well, that was a really insightful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.